Brian Jordan, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So I got a call that said, this is Susan Bailey. And I said, yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know a Susan Bailey. She goes, I'm Henry Aaron's secretary. And I went, yeah. She goes, Henry would like to talk to you. I said, yeah, okay. And he said, how would you like to fly down to Sarasota and look at our pictures? And I said, I would love to. He said, well, when can you do it? Jokingly, I said, tomorrow. He goes, okay, we'll take care of that. I'll meet you at the airport in Atlanta. Susan will have the arrangements. And then I get on a plane with Hank Aaron and fly down to Sarasota. He offers me a job, and I said, well, what team do you want me to manage? He goes, no, he wants you to be a pitching coach.
Hi, this is Phil Necro. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Most guys throw it this way. Put the ball back in here. Hands come around. And these two fingers come into the ball. And stiff wristed, no follow throw, and just a little up and goes in the bat. I hope there's no rotation on. The ball comes in there and doesn't a lot of difference. It doesn't never do the same thing twice.
This is Kyle Wright, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
One of my favorite moments for your career, as of right now, is actually this past week. It was a show of confidence by Brian Snitker. He left you in the game after bases were loaded. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I went back and I saw that clip on Instagram several times. I'll be honest, I went back and I watched it numerous times. Kind of gave me chills a little bit. It was just really cool. I was kind of lost my command a little bit there. Still made some good pitches, but was definitely getting a little tired. So whenever he said basically left me in the game, I feel like that kind of gave me what I needed to get me over the hump to make a good pitch, get a ground ball back to me, and get out of that inning.
This is Matt Olson. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond. Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. Not everybody gets this opportunity to kind of set up their roots and be somewhere long term that they grew up and have family and friends. So it happened pretty quick there in spring training, and it was just an opportunity that my wife and I and my family thought that we couldn't pass up. So just jumped on it, and it's been a blast.
Says, Chief, why don't you race Ralph Garr? I said, okay. Said, Ralph Garr wants to race you too. So we started on the first base line on the outfield line. We started, bam, took off running. I beat him by 3 foot.
Mike Bolton-Everett here. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I'm Kelsey Wingert, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey, this is Andrew Jones. You're watching On Deck with Tyler.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hello, baseball fans. Hello, Braves fans. Hello, Philly fans. Whoever I may be speaking to tonight. What an exciting night for the Atlanta Braves. 3-0 victory over the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 2 of the NLDS. Big win tonight. It was a must-win night for the Atlanta Braves. Obviously, after losing a disappointing Game 1 against Philadelphia. And, of course, heading into Philadelphia after a rest day tomorrow, a win here was a must-win. And I cannot speak enough to how much of a must-win it really was. And, look, credit to the Phillies. They got out to a good Game 1, but, hey, the Braves struck back tonight. They needed to strike back, and they certainly did. So credit to the Atlanta Braves tonight. Offensive night. They had a big 6th inning. That was the real key there on a big Olsen single after Acuna got hit with a ball on the right elbow, forearm area. Glad that he seems to be all right. He did he did put himself on base, and he did stay in for the rest of the game. Olsen drives in a run there. Riley drove in a run on an infield single. Don't know how many times we'll ever say that, so we need to say it tonight. Darno singled as well, knocking in the 3rd run for the Braves. That would be enough. The Braves held the Phillies to no runs tonight on the back of Kyle Wright, who I cannot speak enough about. Great night for him, great season for him. Obviously 21 wins on the year, but glad he got to stand out tonight. And he had his hands full. Zach Wheeler on the other side pitched a great game up until the 6th inning, and the Braves took advantage. And you know what? The Braves came out on top tonight. That's what really matters for the city of Atlanta tonight. So glad to see that. A couple of defensive plays that I want to mention. I can't go without mentioning. Number one, Dansby Swanson That play is what, to me, changed the momentum of the game, or gave the Braves momentum, rather. I don't think anyone really had it at that point. It was still 0-0. But the play he made running out to the outfield, which, by the way, he was deep in the outfield, had his back turned to the infield, diving play, and he made it. That's when, the bats seemed to come alive, and the Braves had that energy come alive too. Of course, I got to mention Austin Riley, who made one heck of a play against Bryson Stott on the tarp. If you haven't seen it, just go to Twitter. Go watch it. Go watch it replay a few times. One of the greatest plays I think you'll see out of that Braves third baseman. Probably the play of the year for Austin Riley, and it could not have come at a better time. So that being said, again, an exciting night for Atlanta. I know you guys were watching. Thank you for tuning in here. We really do appreciate it. If you'll do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. It really does help us grow here, but liking the video is really the big first step you could do to help get this video out there to other Braves fans. We really do appreciate it. And of course, you can follow me on social media. Those are the tags on Twitter and Instagram. Some of you guys are probably coming from Twitter. Do appreciate you tuning in. A lot of places you could be tonight. We appreciate you taking the time to be right here at On Deck. All right, so let's talk about tonight. And of course, we will also talk about what's ahead. What about the postseason bracket? I'll give you a preview right there. That's what it's looking like. This is the path to the World Series. Of course, you see the National League on the right side there. Padres, Dodgers, still to be determined tonight. Of course, when we get a notification, we will notify you. But for right now, what we do know is that the Phillies and Braves still are going at it. Their Game 3 is planned for Friday. And, of course, throughout the weekend, Game 5 will be Sunday if necessary. No travel day there. So just keep that in mind. Off day tomorrow. And we will, of course, take that for the travel day and move forward in this series. But, yeah, tied 1-1. I'll be honest with you, I said this yesterday. Of course, we had Johnny Estrada in studio yesterday. Fun time with him. If you haven't seen it, there is a highlight reel. If you missed it, it's worth a watch. It's pretty comical. You ought to go check it out. It is on the channel right now. Me hanging out with former All-Star Johnny Estrada, watching a game yesterday. We went live yesterday. Plan to maybe do something like that for the NLCS as well. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Hopefully next time it'll be in prime time. That being said, exciting day yesterday, but a much more exciting day today. The Braves got out offensively, and they held the Phillies down. So I said yesterday that I still felt good about the Braves. I thought the layoff hurt them. I still think that, but it seems like they've got it into gear, and I think the offense is back. I think Kyle Wright pitched a much better game than Max Fried did. Max Fried, if you didn't see it, came out and said that he simply did not do his job. He did not blame any kind of sickness or anything like that. He just said that he did not perform up to expectation. If we see Fried again this series or in the next series, I'm sure we will if we make it that far, then I hope to see a better performance out of him. I think that's as expected. It's rare that you see Fried get shaken up quite like that, especially against a rival that we're so familiar with. So I will say that with a rival that we are that familiar with, they're just as familiar with our pitching staff as well. So that is something to keep in mind. Let's talk to you guys. Let's hear from you. Let's hear what you're thinking. Of course, for that, we're going to go down to the chat and check out what you guys got going on tonight. J.W. Taylor tunes in. He says, let's go. Obviously a big win tonight. Robert Sharpton says, go Braves. Let's see. Chris Kaysen says, go Braves. Clayton McCullers says, chop on, Braves, chop. Big Ant, thanks for tuning in. He says, go Braves. Let's see. Chris Kaysen, what a ball game. Yeah, a lot to be hyped up about. If you got any questions, guys, remember Super Chats are the best way to get in contact with me. Going to have a lot of viewers tonight, I'm sure, off the back of this great game we had. So remember to do me a favor and also subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We would love your participation in all of these live streams that we do. And the more you tune in, you'll see that this is a growing community, and we're really proud of that, and we want to keep it going. Jorge says, if the Braves have hit Nola this year. Oh, I'm sorry. The Braves have hit Aaron Nola this year. Hopefully it happens on Friday. Yeah, they got a couple days to prepare for it. It looks like they went with a different philosophy today. Ozuna almost got hold of one, but there were no homers today. It was simply bat on ball and runners on base and knocking those guys in. All 3 runs, if I'm not mistaken, came with 2 outs. So that is a positive trend compared to Game 1. And if we're going to have it one way, I would much rather score with runners on with 2 outs than not at all. So that is something to keep in mind. The Braves hit a lot better with 2 outs today, and they shortened up and they got on base. And when you get on base, and when you get on base, good things happen. When you put the bat on the ball, good things happen. The Braves were able to do that today. Let's see. Richard Davis says, I really can't see Morton not starting Game 3. They're not paying him $20 million to not start a playoff game. The buzz is, I'm glad you brought this up, the buzz that I've heard around the Braves today, I've read all the media, I've listened to, Kevin McAlpin, Ben Ingram, I've heard a little bit of the buzz going around. The buzz is that had we lost today, it probably would have been Strider on Friday. Being that we won, I think they're going with Morton, not to mention Morton's postseason experience and postseason heroics and record, and experience really does go a long way in the postseason, without a doubt. And when you pitch Kyle Wright, it's kind of hard to see that, but it really does go a long way. And I think a lot of people overlook that. But I think I'm confident with Morton out there. And I know a lot of people are going to look at it and go, "Oh, we got Morton. I don't know. I really don't want to go down, 2-1 against Philadelphia." I get that. But on the back end of it, you have Fried as well to go to if need be, possibly Strider if you wanted to pull that card. There's a lot of things you can do. But I would say this. I would say have confidence. The Braves' bats are now alive, which wasn't the case until really the 9th inning in Game 1, courtesy of Matt Olson. So that's something to be excited about. I think that's going to continue. I think, frankly, we have a much better bullpen than the Phillies do, and that was on full display in Game 1. Eflin did not have anything for the Braves, and I really don't think they're as deep in the pen as we are. I mean, think about the options we had. We didn't waste anything in Game 1. We pitched Jackson Stevens and Jesse Chavez. All due respect to those guys, they are not Raisel Iglesias, they're not Kenley Jansen, nor are they A.J. Minter. They are not the top-tier bullpen arms. But they are still, suitable arms that can cover innings, and that's what they were out there to do. They did a good job. Kept the Braves within the game, but, it is what it is. I think, the Phillies aren't quite as deep, and when it comes to the bullpen, I think that's a big advantage for the Braves going forward. And speaking of bullpen arms, do want to mention friend of the channel, Tyler Matzek, is done not only for this year, but likely next. We knew he was having elbow trouble, but, come to find out, it is Tommy John worthy, and hate to see that. We are big Tyler Matzek fans here on this channel. Of course, we got the chance to interview Tyler a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, and he was hyped for the postseason. He wanted to be there, and obviously after last year, we wanted him to be there and pull off some of the similar heroics. Has had a difficult year. I tend to believe that he's been battling with these injuries for a while. I don't think it was, just spur of the moment at the end of the year. I think he's been sort of battling it, and, maybe he pushed it too far. It is what it is. You hate to see these guys getting hurt. Of course, Luke Jackson is the other one that is also currently out with Tommy John, expected to be back next year if he does get re-signed, that is. But just wanted to send positive vibes to Matzek. He had a great tweet today. I am not at liberty to read it, but if you want to go check it out, I would. Great tweet today. You really ought to go check it out. But yeah, positive vibes to Tyler Matzek. Want to wish him the best. Thanks again for the interview. And just look, I mean, sometimes things are bigger than baseball. Tyler, great human being. And, I want to see you on the field again, but, time will come. The time will come. We got a super chat. Thank you for that. I can't tell who sent it. Oh, we got 2 super chats. I apologize. William Fulgham being the first one. He says, great win tonight. Terrible loss with Matzek. Tough to replace him in the postseason and next year. Perfect timing, William. I didn't even see that till just now. Matzek, again, some things are bigger in baseball. He's struggled this year. But look, guys, he gave everything he had in that NLCS last year and, of course, the World Series. Just a different... that was something that was so awesome. If you were there in the stadium, you know what I'm talking about. When he came in and shut the door on the Dodgers, I've never seen any one stadium react to a relief appearance quite like that. And granted, I only get to go to so many games. I have not been at everything in history, but that was special. And again, credit to Matzek for that, but we can look back at 2021 every day of the year if we want to. But looking ahead, it's looking like Obviously, he's out for the remainder of this season. He had surgery today, if I'm not mistaken. And, of course, he will also be out for the 2023 season. And that's the real, gut punch, is that he will be out for the 2023 season. But, 2024 isn't that far away. Hopefully he'll be back with the Atlanta Braves at that point. Let's see, Chris Kaysen with a super chat. Thank you for that. He says, to Braves country's Tyler Redmond, much love coming from Georgia. Thank you for that. Thank you for the super chat. We really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Baseball doesn't exist is in the chat, everybody, if you didn't know. He says, let's go Braves, baby. They're not as deep in the pen. They aren't as deep anywhere. Yeah, I don't think the Phillies are the team that, the Braves were last year. A lot of people have drawn comparisons to the 89-win Braves last year and the 87-win Phillies this year. Now, granted, anybody can win a series. Anybody can win a 5-game series, especially when you get out to a Game 1 victory. However, I would also say this. I would say that last year, the Braves were a much different breed, especially when you consider the fact that how much the Braves changed from the first half to the second. With the additions at the trade deadline, of course, Jorge Soler, World Series MVP, Eddie Rosario, NLCS MVP, Adam Duvall was in the top 3 for homers in the National League last year. And you can go on and on. Richard Rodriguez, who really steadied the pen. We can sit here and do this, but they were a much different team. They were a much more complete team than I think the record showed. I don't think that's the case with the Phillies. I think their record pretty much indicates where they are. Now, granted, they've played a lot better under their current manager, Rob Thompson, hence why he got that 2-year deal he just signed the other day. But I still don't think they're built as well. Their defense, especially on the outfield corners, not quite there for me. Their rotation's good, of course, headlined by Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, but the Braves were able to get to him. I think the layoff really affected the Braves' offense, and I really think that the Braves are going to win this series. And I'm not at liberty to say Braves in 4, but I do think they can win this series, whether it be in 4 or 5. I think that is possible. If they win 1 in Philadelphia and come back to Atlanta, I expect Max Fried to be on the mound in that game, and I expect him to have a Max Fried appearance. And I don't think we saw that in Game 1. Had we seen that in Game 1, who knows what happens. But baseball doesn't exist. Never seen you in the chat before. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you'll subscribe and continue to be a part of what we got going on here at On Deck, just like the rest of you. Again, remember, like this video, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. Thank you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Remember, if you have a question, follow William and Chris's example. Super Chat is the best way to really narrow it down. I got a lot of you guys in the chat. Going to get through as many of you as I can. I just can't promise anything unless you Super Chat. Let's see. All right, Jorge says, after not hitting all year, Nick Castellanos is apparently locked in now. It sucks. He hit the ball hard twice today. Yeah, look, postseason, Johnny Estrada mentioned this yesterday when he was on. And again, thanks to Johnny if you're watching. I appreciate it. But Johnny mentioned this yesterday. Sometimes a lot of guys that didn't have a great year, Castellanos coming from the Reds, now to Philly, didn't have a great regular season. A lot of times they're looking ahead for the postseason and looking for a clean slate. A lot can be forgiven if you succeed in the postseason. A lot can be forgiven. Think about it this way. If, let's say, Eddie Rosario was to pop off in the NLDS or NLCS again this year, don't you forget about the rest of the year? I would. And I think that's kind of what Castellanos is looking for and looking to make an impact. And he wants to contribute to his team. Credit to him. He's locking in at the right time. Nothing wrong with that. That being said, I don't believe that that's going to be a continued thing. And I could be wrong. Castellanos is a great player with Cincinnati. Haven't quite seen that player in Philadelphia. But that might change here in the postseason. We obviously, here in Braves country, we hope not. Chris Kaysen says, they extended Morton for $20 million. Big game postseason starting pitcher with arguably the most experience this postseason in Major League Baseball. Got to hand the ball to Morton in Game 3. I don't know about most experience all across Major League Baseball. There is a guy named Clayton Kershaw, though it's, not the best experience for Clayton. Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, who is in the postseason. At this point, Morton's up there. He's in that conversation. He's a veteran. And I do think there is something to be said for that. We talk all the time about how good postseason experience is. And I think for Morton, that's the case. And if he can lock in and just give the Braves a chance to win, I have no problem in pitching him in tomorrow's games. Give Spencer another day, especially since you won today. Your back's not against the wall. You don't have to pull that wild card out and hope for the best. I say throw Morton out there, give your team a chance to win. And look, if he goes 5 innings, we haven't wasted that much of the pen. I don't see any reason why Minter couldn't come out tomorrow after pitching today. Rysell couldn't come out tomorrow after pitching today. Kenley couldn't close the game. And if need be, Jackson Stevens, Jesse Chavez, you have plenty of options there. And you're never going to have everybody. But what I do think is this. I think the Braves have set themselves up well to actually win this. I look at the roster. I see a lot of arms that the Braves can go to. And I don't think the Phillies have this. I mean, guys, we haven't even seen Dylan Lee. Or I believe we did see Dylan Lee in Game 1. I apologize for that. But there's arms that we haven't seen. We haven't seen Odorizzi. We have not seen, some of these guys. And I think they can go to them. They're all well rested. They're all, with the ability to go to. And I think that's good. I don't think the Phillies have that quite so much. And, if you're a Phillies fan, you may disagree with me, but I look at it and I look at your closer situation and I say, well, they're pitching Zach Eflin in the ninth. And, if it was me, I would probably pitch Sir Anthony there, but I'm not Rob Thompson. I don't make that decision. But that would be me if I needed somebody to lock it down. You're down David Robertson. I understand. But I look at the Braves bullpen, I look at the Braves starting pitching, and I think it's much more deep than Philadelphia right now. And look, it's a 5-game series. Depth doesn't necessarily show in a 5-game series. It does more so in a 7th, obviously, but it doesn't always show in a 5-game series. But bullpen will. A bullpen mistake will. And look at Game 1 yesterday. I mean, the Braves were down 6-3. In the ninth, and I'm sorry, 7-3 in the ninth, and came back and made it 7-6. The Braves' bat started coming up when the bullpen came in, and Ranger Suarez, frankly, had a lot of base runners, and the Braves didn't capitalize early. Had they done that, who knows what happens? The Phillies might be 0-2 right now, but that's not the case. But yeah, I definitely think Morton can pitch tomorrow. I don't see a problem with it. I think today was a big win, and I think tomorrow could be too. But I have no problem in pitching, Morton at all. Let's see. iJack says maybe there will be another 4-hour rain delay on Philly Friday so we can have another night game. Yeah, me and Johnny Estrada talked about it the other day, yesterday, and we both spoke about how it was a joke that the defending World Series champions can't get one night game for the NLDS. It is kind of a joke. I get it. You have 2 West Coast teams going against each other, but for me, I think the Braves deserve prime time, if I'm honest with you. And they got it tonight. Thanks to, Mother Nature, they got it tonight. Chris Fields tunes in. He says, what's up, Tyler? Good win. 10 more wins left. Go Braves. Long road ahead, for sure. Absolutely a long road ahead for the Braves. Still got to get past Philadelphia. Of course, as Dusty Baker said on Mad Dog Show today, watch that. Love Dusty Baker. I know that there's a lot of controversial thoughts about the Astros, but I love Dusty Baker. He said, look, you live for today, but you plan for tomorrow, and you learn from yesterday. That's great life advice, and it fits this postseason bracket perfectly. You got to live for the Phillies today. You got to plan for the Dodgers or the Padres, whoever it may be in the championship series. And, of course, you got to learn from yesterday. But again, love Dusty Baker, and Braves got a long road ahead. I'll be honest with you, last year in the NLDS, I didn't know what the Braves were going to be facing. A lot worked out for the Braves last year. I kind of forgot today. I was looking at it, and it was Dusty Baker again in the interview mentioned that McCullers was out for the World Series last year. I had forgotten about that. Then I remembered Max Scherzer had the dead arm, and things worked out a lot for the Braves last year. And I'm not taking anything away from that team. They won that World Series, make no mistake. But a lot of the way postseason games unfold is who's healthy at the right time. And, for the Braves right now, everybody, for the most part, is healthy. And those that aren't healthy, they're missed, of course. But we have other options. Ozzie Albies, Orlando Arcia. I'm not saying he's equal to Ozzie Albies. I'm not saying he's better than Ozzie Albies because he's not. But he is a suitable replacement. And, Tyler Matzek, we have plenty of bullpen arms that can cover it. Rysell Iglesias is just as dominant. And, I think that we can move on and we can, that's the kind of thing that we have over a team like the Phillies. And again, long road ahead for sure. But, it is what it is. Let's see. Thank you guys again for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Going to try to read as many of these comments as I can. Remember, Super Chats get priority. If you want to follow me on social media, have a closer connection with On Deck, we'd love you to do that. Those are the tags down below. And again, thank you for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Jorge says, Tyler, do you think there will be any upsets this round with the Braves, Dodgers, Astros, and Yankees all win their series? So I said early on that when it comes to the wild card teams, right? For this case, it would be now the Phillies, the Padres, the Mariners, and Cleveland. I didn't think any of these teams had a fighting chance because they're wasting pitching, they're on short rest, and you're walking into four teams that, if we're honest, are way better. I think the Yankees are far better than what Tampa Bay and Cleveland had to offer. That being said, Cleveland has played pretty well. The Astros, I just think for me, it's the Astros and everybody else. But, the Phillies proved in game one that, those teams can lose. Rest is not everything. And, the Astros were down 4-0 early on in that game. The Mariners put up a show. If there's one team that I think could do it, if I had to pick one team for you, it would probably be the Padres. I think they have a lot of weapons there. Granted, the Dodgers do too, and the Dodgers are well rested, and they have a great pitching staff, and they're probably more deep than the Padres, but that would be the one pick that I would have. I think the Phillies have a shot, make no mistake. I don't think this series is concluded with today's win. I would have said the Astros if Yordan Alvarez had not hit a massive walk-off homer last night. Great moment, by the way. If you missed it, good Lord, what a homer that was. And of course, in New York, I think after losing game one, Cleveland could be out of gas, but that is something I think they all kind of have a shot. I think the Mariners are pretty much shut down. I think if they had won game one, it would have been a different story, but, stuff goes that way sometimes. Yordan Alvarez, great hitter, and he saw two fastballs, and the second one went over the gate. So I think the Mariners had a shot. I think the Phillies still have that shot. Of course, series tied 1-1. Aaron Nola on the mound in Philadelphia on Friday. They, of course, have that shot. I do think the Braves have turned a corner. I think you're actually facing the Atlanta Braves, and that comes with a different connotation now as opposed to game one with a 5-day layoff. But I really look at that San Diego-LA matchup, and I say, well, if the Padres win tonight, which I don't even know what the score is, that's probably something I ought to check before I answer this question. But all right, so the Padres are up 4-3. If they can win tonight and carry some momentum into their series in San Diego, then I don't see any reason why the Padres couldn't win. They do have a good pitching staff. Of course, Yu Darvish on the mound tonight. I don't see why that couldn't happen. It's not guaranteed. And again, I think that there is a massive disadvantage being a wild card team. There is. There's also, everything has its positives and negatives. And the negative for not being a wild card team this year is you have to wait 5 days in between. And look, I know the Braves went and worked out. I know all these teams are working out. Poor Houston and New York, they're having to pause. They had game one yesterday. They had a travel day or whatever you want to call it, I guess today, which they didn't even travel on. They're still in Houston and New York, and then they're playing game two tomorrow. It's all about TV, guys. This has nothing to do with the logistics of these games. That being said, the Astros and the Yankees, I think they're really getting the short end of the stick too, because they're not able to really get in a routine. And that's kind of garbage in my opinion. So that's the advantage you get as a wildcard team. You get to kind of play like it's the regular season. You never really stop. The Braves had to stop for 5 days. And workouts do not equal live pitching. Not like that. It just doesn't. And, sometimes that's the case. Let's see. Chris Kaysen says, love how the team backs up their star player, Ronald Acuna, after he gets plunked hard at 97 miles per hour on the inner elbow. Huge way to pick up your teammate. Yeah, and he came around to score. Zach Wheeler kind of hurt himself on that. Hits Acuna with 2 outs. Never thought that was intentional, not in the playoffs. But he hits Acuna with 2 outs. Acuna gets on base and eventually comes around to score. So, If you're the pitcher, you want to limit base runners, especially in the postseason, and we saw it firsthand tonight. Let's see. Jameson says there is a possibility that we can get another massive rain delay on Friday in Philadelphia, so that way we are playing the game at night. That would be very interesting. To tell you the truth, I don't much mind when we play the game. Full disclosure, I'm actually out of town this weekend. I have a wedding I have to attend between two very good friends of mine that are getting married, so if you want to sing congrats for them. But I have to go down to Florida for that, and I will be out of town. But no worries, I will be keeping up with the games, and I will bring the old trusty laptop with me and a webcam. And if something huge is going on, if something big is going on, make no mistake, I will plug up the webcam and we will go at it, in Florida. I don't know what the backdrop will be, but hopefully it'll be the beach. We will see, but we will have the assets necessary if it gets to that. But yeah, obviously big weekend ahead. Don't want to miss it. NLDS. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all 3 days that I will be gone. But we will, of course, keep an eye on it and try to check in with you guys. Let's see. Leaf Yapel says these fans needed to see this win more than... their fans needed to see this win more than any of the Braves players needed to win tonight to win the series. I think fan bases get nervous sometimes a little too quickly, Anytime your team wins the first game, 76% of the time, well, here's the thing. The Braves were a part of that 33 some odd percent last year that lost the first game of the series and went on to win it. Okay, when we beat the Brewers. We lost the first game and went on to win the next 3. We did not face elimination. We did not face the elimination one time last year, which I believe was the fundamental part of why we won last year. We never faced elimination. Right? We beat the Brewers in 4 games. We went on to the NLCS. We beat the Dodgers in 6. We won the World Series in 6. We never faced elimination. And when you don't face elimination, you don't have to put your back against the wall and use all of your pitching and use all of your roster and use all of what you have. You can really hold down. And that's really what the Dodgers didn't do last year. They weren't able to complete it. They faced the Giants in 7 games in the NLDS, and they didn't have the ability to save their roster, hence why Max Scherzer was unavailable for Game 1 last year. That was a big deal, and it really led to what the Braves were able to do. And I look at our depth. Our depth is solid, but it would be so much more solid walking into the NLCS, not using the depth quite like we would have to do if we went to 5 games. You win in 4, it would be great. If you win in 5, we'll take it. Make no mistake, I would not be upset if the Braves were to win in 5. But you really want to get your business done in 4. That would be ideal. And at this point, that's going to be tough. You got to go through NOLA and Philadelphia. And then, of course, you got to win Game 4 as well. But I think at this point, the Braves really just need to focus on winning this series before worrying about anything else. But, yeah, this game was a big one. This game, without a doubt, was a big one. It was a very pivotal game in this series, and, of course, it will continue to be as time goes on. I think, the Braves really turned into themselves today. I think yesterday was a wake-up call, if nothing else, but I think it was good. Let's see. Bruce Taylor says, we still had a chance to win Game 1. The last 10 innings have been ours. Yeah, Game 1, anytime you lose by 1 run, you can always look back at the game and go, man, if we had just held 1 or 2 more, if we had just pitched Minter, if we had just, you could do a lot of that. But I think the key there is that the Braves did start coming back. Their bats did come alive. And sometimes if you lose 7-6 on a heartbreaker, then that's the case. But I don't think it was a heartbreaker. Game 1, if you lose 7-3, you got beat. The Braves never really got beat Game 1. They, of course, took the loss, but they never got beat. They never, it was never a statement by Philadelphia. It was, look, we put up 7 runs and our bullpen couldn't hold it together. Not really. And eventually they got out of it, but what did we learn? We learned, okay, the bats are coming alive, right? We'll see you in Game 2. Game 2, Braves put up 3 runs on Zach Wheeler, and the bullpen held it down. So if the Braves can get ahead early and keep Morton in the game and keep him competitive, then I think we're going to be good. We'll, of course, see that on Friday. Cody Hurd. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. It jumped on me. I remember, guys, super chatting is the best way to go about it. That's just the best way I can really keep you guys in line. Cody Hurd says, I thought Strider was good now. Why aren't they using him? He says he feels really good and his stuff is electric. So I say let him loose. Look, I'm with you. I am all for the Strider idea. Absolutely. Strider has been phenomenal all year long. However, and this was said tonight on the broadcast, I believe it by John Smoltz. And, I don't know if you know anything about John Smoltz, but I tend to take him at his word when it comes to pitching. He basically said that, look, from a manager's perspective, you want Strider to be good. You want him to come out pitching like he's pitched all year because it has been electric. But with his recent injury, he also has not taken the mound in a game in a long time. And you don't want to do it necessarily facing elimination, but you also don't want to do it to put yourselves behind as well. So for tomorrow, I think they're going to go with Morton. And I don't even think that decision's really nailed down yet. And I think today it was obvious that it was going to be Fried Wright, especially with all the questions surrounding Strider. Even if he's perfect, we don't know what he's going to be once he hits that mound. But going into going into Friday, we don't really know what that decision is going to be. It's hasn't been decided yet. I think it is still up in the air. I think a lot of it is going to be determined by what Strider feels. Knowing that we still have 2 games before being eliminated, I think the Braves may save Strider for a Game 5 situation or even a Game 4 situation facing elimination if we lose Friday. So there's a lot to be decided there. That is a managerial decision. They know the staff. They know the health. They know where everybody's at. And they, frankly, know more than me and you do. So with that said, I look at it and I go, well, whatever Snit decides is going to make sense for the Braves. And, a lot of people gave the Mariners manager, they gave him grief for bringing in Robbie Ray last night to face Jordan. And look, here's the deal. I like the move. If it worked out, he'd be looked at like a genius. Sometimes you don't get that luxury as a baseball manager. That's unfortunate. You also don't get that luxury as a college football coach or any kind of coach. If you make a decision that backfires, you're looked at as an idiot. If you make the same exact decision and it works out, then you're praised. It goes that way sometimes. So, with that, I look at it and I say, well, whatever decision, Snit makes about Strider, whether he pitches Game 3, whether he pitches Game 4, Game 5, whatever the case may be, I look at it and I say, well, that was the decision made with the most knowledge at hand. And that's what we can go with. If he doesn't pitch this series, it's because they know something that they're not telling us. I think he's probably ready to go. I think he thinks he's ready to go. And, he's obviously dying to get into the National League Division Series. He obviously wants to pitch in the postseason in what might be his only opportunity this year if the Braves weren't to advance. But again, whatever decision they make, I'm fine with Morton. I think we've gotten this idea that Morton is just this terrible pitcher. Charlie Morton is not only a World Series hero for the Atlanta Braves, he's a World Series hero for the Houston Astros, postseason hero for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's been around the block, guys. He knows how to handle business, and I think he'll lock in. And look, he may give up a couple of runs, but if the Braves bats are alive, then I don't think that it's just going to be a one-sided affair. I think it's going to be a game, and I think it's going to be a good game, and that's all that really matters. If Morton gives us a chance, I say pitch him. Strider might come in and be electric, but if he's only electric for 3 innings, then, what good does that really do? So we will see. We do have a super chat, though, so we're going to check in with that really quickly. Joseph Alvarez, do you think the Braves can win this series in 4? Very good question. Glad you asked it. Yes, I do. I do, and I'm going to tell you in a perfect world what I think would happen once I get back kind of in place. Let's see. All right. So, Braves in 4. The idea of Braves in 4. You lose Game 1, Fried's out of the question. You win Game 2 with Kyle Wright. Game 3, I think Morton can pitch well, and I think he can win. Game 4 is interesting. That's obvious. It's either Strider or Morton. I'm going to assume it's Morton for right now. Game 4 is interesting. You can either pitch Fried on short rest, or you can go to Strider. I highly doubt you'll ever see Jake Odorizzi start in this series. Maybe later on if we have a 2-0 lead or something like that. But right now, absolutely not. I think you're going to see Strider or Fried in that case. And it's all about what they want to do. I think Strider will likely get the Game 4 start if he's healthy. If not, then I think you go to Fried. But if it's me, I say Fried for Game 5. And a lot of people are going to have an eyebrow raised at that because Fried wasn't great in Game 1. I think that was an oddball situation. I think the Braves have a lot better read on how aggressive the Phillies are. You notice Kyle Wright today pitched out of the zone a lot because this is the team that has the highest chase rate, at least in the National League. And I think they showed that off today. And I think Fried will adjust as well. But, if it's me, I think that's your path. I think it's that. And we don't know what the pitching decisions are going to be. We don't know quite when it's going to be, what it's going to be. I definitely think Morton is your pitcher for Game 3. Game 4 is kind of up in the air, as is anything in a series like this. It's fluid. A lot of decisions have to be made at the time of making that decision. It's not something you can really plan. You can try to plan. You can have a tentative plan, but things change. I look at the World Series last year. Charlie Morton pitched Game 1 of the World Series last year and broke his leg. Who could have planned for that? So there's things that change and things that have to be planned for, and we'll see how it goes. But I do think there is a path for the Braves to win in 4. But we'll take a win in 5 too. Let's see. Zach Sports Cards and Collectibles. He says, awesome win tonight. The Parkview Panther with a key hit tonight. Go Atlanta Braves. Absolutely. Chris Kaysen says, I feel like opposing teams are extremely nervous in the 8th inning. Raisel Iglesias is such a stud to have in the bullpen. Absolutely. Raisel Iglesias has been phenomenal all year. I haven't checked his stats as of late. I don't know quite what he finished with, but I guess I can go ahead and take a look. But Raisel has been a stud, no doubt about it. Raisel was one of my favorite ads at the postseason. I thought he was one of the most underrated additions to the Braves. Not the postseason, the trade deadline. I apologize. I thought he was one of the most underrated additions at the trade deadline for any team, and I liked the move at the time. And at the time, he had a 4 ERA out of the pen for the Angels. But listen to what I just said. It was for the Angels. He's now lowered that in the entirety of the 2022 season. He has lowered his ERA from above a 4 at the trade deadline to 2.47. Let's see what he's got with the Braves. I'm looking for that right now, so I apologize. For the Braves, he has a .34 ERA. With the Angels, he had a 4.04. So that's the difference. That's the difference in being in LA and being in Atlanta and having something to compete for. But the Braves bullpen as a whole has been really good this year. And I know everybody loves to give Kenley Jansen all kinds of grief. I understand it, but he's been good as well. Let's see. All right, I see a comment about Alvarado, so I guess I better just go ahead and speak on it. Jose Alvarado, if you don't know, yesterday, I wish I had a picture to show you. Yesterday, basically came out and out of the bullpen and complained about the mound. And it led to a lot of people questioning it because we all know about Major League Baseball and his, and pace of play, right? That whole conversation. Here's the thing. Jose Alvarado comes out, doesn't like the mound, basically asks for it to be shifted and adjusted and all of that stuff. And, that is what it is. And, I get it. It's a postseason game, and I understand his reasoning to some degree, but, it is what it is. The Braves, grounds crew came out there, did their jobs. Ed Mangan, had it going on quickly and, did the best he could, but it was a whole operation. And Guillermo Heredia, former teammate of Jose Alvarado and fan favorite here in Atlanta, World Series champion, might I add, didn't like it. Did not like it one bit, and basically came out and was chirping at him, and we all know how energetic Guillermo can be. Did not like it at all. There's a whole news story about it. Kind of ridiculous if you ask me. Didn't think it needed to be talked about any further than that, but now that it has, is something that I think, to some degree has to be addressed. As ridiculous as I just might think it is, because I do, it does kind of have to be addressed, and it is what it is. I think it's a bit overblown and ridiculous. Alvarado came out and said, quote, Guillermo needs to respect the pitcher and, respect the game. I think Guillermo Heredia respects the game just fine. I think he loves the game, and that is what it is. What I do think is, if, much like Eric O'Flaherty said last night, if you want a clean mound, if you want a perfect mound, then, be a starter. And I kind of like that. So I'm going to show you a picture real quick here. This is the grounds crew yesterday doing their hard work, and Jose Alvarado warming up. To give you an idea what this was a whole 10-minute operation. The game was paused for, no joke, 10 minutes, and it was just ridiculous to me. And look, he came out and said, look, I'm not breaking my ankle. I want the mound to be right. Fried makes a big hole in the mound. Whatever. Look, tempers boil high in the postseason. People get mad. It is what it is. I thought it was a little ridiculous of how long this took and how much, that we had to do for this, because he came out for 1 inning and threw about 10 pitches. I thought it was a little overblown. But look, him and Heredia apparently got beef from beforehand, and just something to keep an eye on as we continue through this stream. So we will see how it goes, but just something to keep an eye on. Let's see. PlayStation Forever says, I believe we're going to win Game 3. Hopefully we put up a lot of runs. I hope so as well. Jorge says, if the Phillies somehow manage to beat the Braves in NLDS, they aren't beating the Dodgers in a 7-game series. I think you're absolutely correct. I don't think there's any, I don't think you're knocking the Phillies there. That would be a huge upset. I don't think there's any, surprise there. I think if the Phillies somehow beat the Dodgers, then, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing we're seeing at that point. I think the Dodgers would absolutely smoke them. That being said, the Braves got their hands full if they face the Dodgers. What you hope to see if you're the Braves and you make it to the NLCS is that the Padres take it to all 5 games with some extra innings. Speaking of which, I'm going to get a score update on that as soon as I can. As of right now, it is still 4-3 in the middle of the 7th, so that is good news. Hopefully the Padres can hold on. I want that series to go as long as possible. That would be ideal for us. They're trying to win tonight. We'll see if they do it. Remember, guys, if you guys do me a favor, just like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Baseball Doesn't Exist subscribe tonight. We love that. So thank you to him, and thank you to all of you guys for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. We're a growing channel, trying to get better, and trying to be a little bit more regular here. The postseason makes it easy. Hopefully the Braves will continue through the postseason and we can keep on going. Jameson says, such an impressive victory tonight, and love we took advantage of the opportunities that come our way. That's the big difference from Game 1 to Game 2, right? Was that, in Game 1, I think we left 17 runners on base. I mean, what is that? That's very abnormal for the Braves. So in Game 2, nice to see that, hey, we didn't have a lot of opportunities, but the opportunities that we did have, we took advantage of, and we knocked runners in. So we'll see. Let's see. A lot of people are talking about Baseball Doesn't Exist. Baseball, if you're still out there, thank you for tuning in. Do appreciate it. You got great content. If you're out there and you need baseball content after this stream, of course, go check out Baseball Doesn't Exist. Let's see. Trying to get as many questions answered as I can. We're not going to be on too late tonight. Probably going to wrap it up here in a few. So thank you guys for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. You guys are being really active tonight. Let's see. Joe Reese says, Alvarado pulls that nonsense no matter where he pitches. Like he's special and more important than the other pitchers before him. He needs to quit being a baby. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it is what it is. And, I think we'll see how this series plays out with Alvarado and Guillermo. We'll just see how it plays out. We will see. Steve Hampton says, I want to beat Freeman. Show him what he's missing and his big mistake. I think he already knows. I do. I think he's aware of it. I think we've sort of moved on from that. But I will say that it would be really nice for Matt Olson to win the NLCS MVP and the Braves to win that series against the Dodgers. I'll just leave it at that. I think that would be great. Let's see. Yeah, Richard Davis brings up a good point. A lot of you guys asking about Strider. He says if Strider wasn't ready to pitch, I don't think they would have put him on the roster. Rust is the question. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're getting at here, right? Is that, look, I'm not doubting that Strider can pitch. I think he feels fine. It's the command. It's the difference of a bullpen and a live at bat in a game, and especially in the postseason, that he's never seen before, not to mention rust. And Strider strikes me as the type of guy that's not going to be, scared of the postseason. He's not going to be scared of the big moment. We all know how he called out the Mets earlier this year, and of course, that played out the way it did. And I don't think we have anything to worry about our rookies being, too scared of a big moment at all, especially not Strider. But, being away from the game for a few weeks and not being able to pitch and that kind of thing, it does have an effect. And I think that's kind of what they're monitoring. They want to know where he is exactly. And look, here's the thing. The whole team is relying on that. And if you do you want to risk it all for him to get a chance to start a game? It maybe not. Maybe you give him a bullpen appearance and see kind of where he's at, before pitching him in the NLCS, right? Maybe that's, kind of what we do. Vision Music Works tunes in with a super chat. Can't thank you enough for that. She says she is leaving Truist Park, and the crowd was amazing tonight. Yeah, Ben Ingram actually just tweeted that a few minutes ago. He said that one of my favorite nights ever at Truist Park. The energy in that stadium tonight was as good as I've ever seen it. Great win by the boys. So that's Ben Ingram. He's seen a lot of Braves games in his day, and he's given credit to it too. So thank you to Vision Music Works. We love to see Braves Country showing out. They did tonight. They stayed through a long rain delay to be there too. They paid for their tickets and they made sure they got their money's worth. So thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Steve Hampton says Strider should be put into the bullpen. That is an interesting thought. I just brought it up, but it is an interesting thought because I had mentioned it earlier in the year. If Strider ever hit a point where, elbow inflammation, not elbow inflammation, but, just his arm not being quite able to keep up with fifth day start, If you ever hit that point, maybe moving him to the pen, especially in the postseason. You bring him out in the postseason, it'll be like Randy Johnson, it would be ridiculous, and it would be electric, and it would be, I don't think anybody's getting a hit off of him coming out of the pen. I think he'd be a shutdown guy. And that being said, that could be said for a lot of guys, but Strider specifically would be really good out of the pen. I think he would do very well out of the pen. He did very well out of the pen earlier in the year, so that is an option. But if you can get Strider to start the game, you want him to start. I think that's kind of where I think we are at. Where we're at is basically determining what we want to do with Strider. Bruce Taylor says Michael needs to get on anyway. He can, but the Braves don't bunt. Harris has the only sack bunt for the season. I prefer to see him hacking like the regular season personally. I think Michael's a great player. Michael is special. Everybody, when you ask about Michael Harris, anybody that has come into contact with the guy says he's special. I talked to Estrada yesterday, said he had him in the RBI program, talked about how good of a player he was, talked about how good of a person he was. Ron Washington, one word to describe Michael Harris, special. That is a common trend with Michael Harris. I think we're going to see his career develop and it'd be great. But it's also, this is also a 20-year-old, in the major leagues. Things are going to be challenging to him, and bunting is something that we don't see in baseball a lot. How many of you expected the Phillies to come out with 3 bunts yesterday? I certainly didn't. I didn't think that at all. So that is something that we're not used to. That is something that we're not accustomed to. And for the Braves, it's really never been in their game plan. They played a little small ball tonight, which was nice to see. It's a nice change of pace, but I don't think it's something we can expect. Their ways to win last year was home runs and big hits. That's what it was. Home runs, big hits, and strikeouts. Not a whole lot else. And I'm not saying that's the trend right now. You had a lot more home run hitters in the lineup, but there is some of that still around. And I think, for Harris with the wheels, you're right. Any way he can get on. Look, we saw Acuna get hit today, and that scored a run. That started a rally. Joe Simpson had a great line today on the radio. Anything in the postseason, any walk, any hit, I don't care if it's with 2 outs or not, that is a rally. Proved itself tonight with Acuna. Gets on base, obviously in the worst of ways, but gets on base, and hits start to happen, and all of a sudden the Braves have 3 runs in the 7th, or in the 6th. So I think that is something we need to keep in mind. Small ball does work, and especially in the postseason, small ball works a lot more than usual. I said earlier, Riley had the infield single. I don't know how many times I've ever uttered the words Riley had an infield single, but it happened, and it happened in the postseason. So, things like that happen in the postseason. Teams try things that they never would try in the regular season because it's the postseason and the games matter. I debate the idea of if you do it in the postseason, why not try it in the regular season? Why not bunt more in the regular season? I wonder that all the time. It's like they're pulling out magic tricks or something. It honestly doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think you have to kind of stay primarily with what you've done. You can try a little bit of certain things and do certain things, but you never want to lose your identity. And if you want to change your identity, the postseason isn't the time. It's spring training and the early part of the year. And I think we're just a little bit too late for that. I think we want the Braves to be themselves and hit like themselves. Michael Harris, my favorite thing about Michael Harris is his ability to hit the ball the other way. Just slap it the other way and get on base. That's what I think he's going for. But when you're facing Ranger Suarez is a little bit different. But when you're facing Zach Wheeler, as a 20-year-old kid who's, if you faced him, it's only been a couple times, you're probably a bit overwhelmed. I mean, you got 97, 98 coming at you. It's a lot to deal with. Zach Wheeler's a great pitcher, and luckily the Braves got to him today. It's always somebody new. I get the whole bunting idea. Johnny Estrada yesterday, Matt Olson at the plate, 2 runners on, bottom of the ninth. What's he saying? Bunt, just bunt. You got the whole left side, just bunt. All of a sudden, Matt Olson hits a 3-run homer, right? And Estrada right after goes, oh, well, I take that back. He shouldn't have bunted. Earlier this year, I did the same exact thing. I'm at the ballpark. Eddie Rosario's got the whole left side. Eddie Rosario has wheels, which Matt Olson doesn't even have. But Rosario has wheels. It's like, man, just bunt. You got the whole left side. Rosario hits a homer. And I'm not saying that's the right way. I'm just telling you that's the mindset. And, it always seems to be that everybody's saying we need to play more small ball, and, the Braves just somehow keep winning. I mean, the Braves won 101 games with the philosophy they have. It's just something to keep in mind. We will see. Steven says Dansby goes off Friday with hitting the cycle, and Olsen goes deep. Saturday is fireworks with Harris and Acuna stealing bases, and Riley and Travis going deep. Braves in 4. There you go. If it happens, you know what? Just for the off chance, I'm going to screenshot that, Steven. So if you're wrong, you're wrong. But if you're right, I will post it, and I will give you the credit. We'll see. Corey Carter says, glad we have an off day tomorrow because I think that arm is going to swell on Acuna. Yeah, that's probably some truth, but everybody's playing banged up in the postseason. I was glad to see Acuna walk on his own 2 feet and go to first and finish the game. There's so many times he gets hurt that we don't know how serious it is because he leaves the game. And, I'm glad he got on base and we just kept on going. I'm glad to see that. Corey Carter also says Dansby has clutch in his blood. Agreed. Glad to see him actually get some good at-bats today. Yesterday was a rough day for him. He bounced right back and was great. Let's see. A lot of you guys tuning in tonight, and that's a good thing. And again, if you do me that favor, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you for tuning in. Let's see. Steve Hampton says, don't do in the postseason what you didn't do in the regular season. Exactly, right? And the Braves didn't hardly bunt in the regular season. So you got to do what you say and go with what brought you to the dance. I completely agree. Richard Davis says, Peter Moylan stated that Morton and Wright are a lot alike, so he would start Strider. I would agree with that, so maybe start Strider Friday. Yeah, I think that's probably some truth there. Morton and Wright they throw a lot more off speed. They throw a lot more junk. Strider's an ambush guy. He's going to come right at you. 2 pitches, and it is a big difference. You change the styles. I get all that. But in this particular situation, I think on a normal day I'd even agree with that. But in this particular situation, I look at it, well, with Strider, who's questionable, we don't really know where he's going to be, there is the option of Morton. And it's not perfect. I'm not saying that that's exactly what the Braves are going to do. But I think Morton or Strider can win the game. Who gives you the best option? Healthy? Strider right now. But we don't know where he is. And that's kind of where I think the debate lies. But I agree with Peter Moylan. Change the styles day to day. But the real key difference there is Strider right now. Is he going to have the ability to go deep into the game and that kind of thing? And to have command too. Let's see. You guys are being very, very active in the chat. I'm trying to answer as many as I can. Remember, super chats are the best way to put yourself first in line. Jameson says, need Dansby to get going. He has struggled way too much in the first 2 games at the plate. Yeah, I mean, look, guys. I mean, we can pick apart 2 games. Dansby's been consistent all year long. And that's just something to keep in mind. That guy has been so good all year long. And I think he will eventually break out. I mean, yesterday he had a bad day. Chalk it up to a bad day, 0 for 4 before hitting a double in the 9th. Today, he faced Zach Wheeler. You know, he did have... it's funny. I texted Estrada during this because Dansby today had a very important at-bat that led to the big 6th inning. He was one of the runs that scored. He got a walk, but he did it on a 3-2 count. If you watched yesterday, you know Johnny Estrada... Me and him talked about the old 3-2 count. He said that, I can't remember the player's name, but this player instructed him early on in his career about the 3-2 count. And basically said that you just got to take all the way. Not all the time, but sometimes there's times where you just got to take all the way. I texted Johnny after Dansby got on base, and I said, yo, 3-2, 3-2 take. Obviously we had a good conversation after that. But, sometimes it works. Dansby did have a very important at-bat. That walk led to that inning. If he struck out right there, that inning doesn't happen, and we're scoreless going into the top of the 10th, if that's how the game played out. But, yeah, so I think, even though he had a bad day, he had some great plays defensively over the past couple of days, and, it's not always about what you do at the plate. Defense gets overlooked a lot. A lot of you guys are talking about Riley struggling at the plate. Had an infield single today. We'll take it. Maybe it'll get him going at the plate. But he also had a great play defensively. And I think that does need to, it's not what you get paid for necessarily, but it does need to be addressed. Defense matters too. Let's see. Bruce Taylor says, Olsen hits well in Philly, so let's hope he continues to hit there. If Swanson and Riley can get going, we're all set. Look, the Braves hit a lot of homers. I don't know if you've ever been to Philadelphia. I don't know if you've ever seen Philadelphia. It's about this big. A lot of homers can be hit there. And I think the Braves are going to do well in Philadelphia. Now, maybe not against Nola, but I think they're going to win 1 at least in Philadelphia. I'd be surprised if they didn't. With Soroka coming back next year, this is from Joe Reese. With Soroka coming back next year, and if Swanson resigns, would the Braves need to spend big money in the offseason, or would most of their team be locked down for years to come? Look, Soroka's a big question mark. I know we're all sort of like thinking that Soroka's going to come back and be this ace. I think Soroka can come back and pitch. I just wonder, is he going to be as good as he was? All respect to Soroka, we're all rooting for him, and so am I. Look, you're watching a video. I drove up to Rome. I wanted to see what he had. He's one of my favorite pitchers in recent memory. But there is that question. Is Soroka going to be that good? I don't know that the Braves really want to rely on that. And that's really what I'm trying to present to you is I don't know that the Braves really want to rely on Soroka's going to be back next year. We're good. Look, we thought he's going to be back for over 2 years, at some point or another. And it just hasn't happened. He's tore his Achilles twice. Now his elbow's hurting. It's just a lot of question marks for Soroka. And if he's healthy, obviously we want to save the money and let him get another shot, let him keep going in a Braves uniform. We obviously, fans love Soroka for obvious reasons. He's great to fans. But there is the question of, is he enough? Is a rotation of, frankly, Max Fried, Kyle Wright, Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton, and a healthy Mike Soroka, is that enough? Do we have enough in the minor leagues with Bryce Elder, Kyle Muller, and beyond? Or do we need to go out and spend some money? Now, look, everybody knows about the rumors of Jacob deGrom. I'm not going to get into it. I don't know. If it happens, great. We'll move on from there. But I do think starting pitching would be something that the Braves would talk about at least in the offseason. Now, we got to wait till the offseason to really get into that. But if there's one thing I do know is that this guy right here, Alex Anthopoulos, likes to make moves happen, likes to complete the team. He did it last year at the trade deadline. He was very active at the trade deadline this year. And I think he's going to be set to make some offseason moves. Payroll is increasing. A lot of you guys talk about Charlie Morton's $20 million, but that was an indication that payroll is increasing. We're paying Strider now $75 million for the next 6 years. Michael Harris, $100 million for the next 10 years. Austin, $200 million for the next 10 years. We're paying guys now, and it's a lot different. The Braves have those finances, and I think that's going to show in the offseason. Now, whether they go after free agents, whether they go after trades. I think they'll likely attack the free agent market. They got to pay Dansby. There's things that got to be handled. I don't think, though, to answer your question, Joe, I don't think that Swanson and Soroka are what make up the team for years to come. I think they could be, but I don't think they're necessarily necessary, if that makes sense. I think you don't have Swanson, you got Vaughn Grissom. If you don't have Soroka, there's always another pitcher in the waiting. I mean, we have arms. Who would have thought Kyle Wright would be what he was this year based on what we've seen in previous years? There's always those options. So I don't think you can always be dependent on one guy. And I'm not saying Vaughn Grissom's ready to go replace Dansby next year. I'm not saying that at all. I'd love to get Dansby back. But you can't rely on one guy. Dansby carries a lot with him. He's the sheriff, as they say. He is a fundamental, he is what I would consider to be the closest thing to a team captain there is on the Braves right now. He's taken over that leadership role, and it's great. I'm happy he's done it. But there's always another guy. And if it's not Vaughn Grissom, there's other free agents at the shortstop position. I think if I'm honest with you, I think Dansby returns next year. But I don't think the future necessarily depends on it because, look, you got Austin Riley locked up for forever. Michael Harris locked up forever. Matt Olson locked up forever. Spencer Strider locked up forever. You have a ton of talent locked up. And I think the Braves are set to succeed for a long time regardless. So I hope that answers your question. I try to do as best I can. Alistair, I'm so sorry. I'm going to get your name wrong. Alistair Golan, big Braves fan tuning in from New Zealand, enjoying your show. I am so sorry. I do not know how to say your name. I apologize. I did my best. Thank you very much. I hope you'll subscribe. Not very often we get fans from New Zealand, so thank you. I did my best to pronounce your name, so hopefully I got it right. Thank you for tuning in, though. Really do appreciate it. Let's see. Bruce Taylor says Swanson and Riley will bring it Friday. We can all hope so. Let's see. Tyler Stevens says sign DeGrom for 2 years and option for a third. Who knows? I wouldn't complain. I would love to see DeGrom with a tomahawk across his chest. Yeah, the thing about DeGrom, and I mentioned this, I think any team would be dumb not to take DeGrom. So before I say this, realize I know what I'm saying. I know DeGrom is the best pitcher, ever, based on what everybody thinks about him. However, there is this small part of me that goes, well, does he fit what the Braves are all about? Does he fit and I don't mean personality-wise, I mean pitching-wise. He throws hard all year long. He doesn't have a lot of secondary pitches. And I know, Spencer Strider's kind of an anomaly, but the Braves don't really target that type of guy. Their philosophy is built on a lot of what Leo Mazzoni is about. And that is essentially that, that you throw more often with less exertion. And, DeGrom doesn't really fit that. And I don't mean that to knock him, but it is a little bit of a concern for me. And I'm not going to lie about it. It's a little bit of a concern just because I look at it and I go, I don't know if he fits that. And I think the Braves would definitely sign him. I just don't think they would sign him to a multi-year, big $1 million deal because I think that's a risk at this point. He's been injured a lot these past few years, I think, in large part due to how much he exerts. I'm a believer of the Leo Mazzoni philosophy as well. And I actually, I remember Leo kind of made a point to say that last year, what did DeGrom lead in the first half? Strikeouts, ERA, whatever it was. What did he lead in the second half? Most missed starts. And I just don't know that the Braves are really going to want to commit to that long term. Now, if he takes less money, if he takes significant pay cut, that kind of thing, he very well might find himself in Atlanta. But it's going to take that to get him in Atlanta, in my opinion. Now, granted, the Braves may decide, we got the money. We're going to take a risk here. We're going to go for it. We're going to go get the best pitcher in baseball. They very well could do that and well within their right to do it. I'm not going to question the move. I would love the move if it happened from a fan's perspective. But from a guy that's sitting back here looking at the numbers, looking at how much time he's missed and that kind of thing, I just don't know. I would love to have DeGrom in Atlanta, but it's going to take a massive pay cut, and I just don't know that the Braves are going to be willing to do that. They have the finances. The battery pays itself. We all know that. But I just don't know that the Braves are going to want to sacrifice those finances to bring DeGrom into Atlanta, if that makes any sense. I hope I explained it well. That's kind of where my thoughts on DeGrom. is right now. Richard Davis sort of echoes my thoughts. He's hurt too much and all those sort of things. We do have a super chat. Malik Brooks says, what do you think Dansby is looking at for a contract? Everybody asks me that. I would say this. Riley's getting paid $20 million a year for the next 10, right? So that's we'll just even it out to 20. I know it's a little bit over, but we'll even it out to 20 for right now. So he's getting paid $20 million for 10 years. Typically with longer term deals, you get paid less per year, and you get more years guaranteed. And I think that works well for the Braves at the moment because I think they believe in most of the guys that are signing to these long term deals. Michael Harris, Austin Riley, Spencer Strider, to name a few, Matt Olson, to name a few. But I think for Dansby, it's not going to be a 10-year deal. It's going to be a 6-7 year deal, and it'll be somewhere in the range of around $20 million a year. He's played his tail off this year. We can all agree. I don't think it'll be more than Riley per year. I think it'll be right around the ballpark, and I think it'll be for less years. I think 6 to 7. It's going to be a big money deal because he's played for a big money deal, and we all know that. I don't know an exact number. I wish I could give you a better one. It's hard to know because I don't know where the Braves' mindset is for this. If it's for the Braves, he's going to take a hometown discount. It just is what it is. Everybody takes a hometown discount for the Braves. That's where they're going with it, and I think that's where they're going to go with it. Now, the Braves, on the other hand, probably don't want to lose Swanson just from a PR perspective because you already lost Freeman last year. You don't want to, Alex Anthopoulos is proud to say that, we want you to be guys to be able to buy jerseys and and go, and have those jerseys for a long time. We want you to commit to these players and believe in these players, and these players are going to be here forever. We want that to happen. So I think they may look at it and go, well, okay, we want Dansby here, and whatever it takes, we'll do it. But the free agency market is out there, and it's hard to know what happens behind the scenes. If it's me, at the beginning of this year, it would have been $12 million a year for 5 to 6 years. After this year, let's be real, Dansby has had a magnificent year, very consistent year. Granted, it's on a contract year, but just for this particular conversation, I would extend it to now 6 to 7 years, and I would probably say, okay, we want, around maybe you can get 18 million for 6 to 7 years. But I would also think, Dansby's going to get older. He's not old, but he is going to get older about 6 or 7 years. We have a long time of success ready to go for the Braves. We've all seen the timeline graphic. There's a long time in that graphic for us to have with these players. Acuna, Harris, Olson, Ozzie Albies. They're all locked up for a very long time. And I look at that and I go, is Dansby going to be that player in 6 to 7 years? And that's kind of where the Braves, that's kind of what they're battling. So, only time will tell. But we'll see. Stephen Varney brings up a good point. Everyone is writing Ian Anderson off. I believe he's going to rebound. He very well could rebound. It ain't going to be this year, but he very well may rebound. Look, everybody wrote off Kyle Wright. I'll be honest with you. I not to say I'd given up on the project, but he sort of became an afterthought. And look at us now. He won Game 2 of the NLDS today. So I think only time will tell what Ian Anderson do. Was a World Series hero last year, and maybe he will be next year. It won't be this year. He's done for the year. I think with some kind of injury with his arm. Not sure, but I think he's got all the potential in the world to develop, and on top of that, also make a rebound and come back. Let's see. Corey Carter says I'd sign Dansby for 5 years for 100. I don't dislike that at all. 5 years for 100, that would be 20 million a year. Yeah, that's about what we're saying, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's essentially half of the Austin contract, and I don't hate it. I don't hate that at all. And I think that's right around what the Braves would be comfortable doing. I just don't know with Dansby's market right now if the Braves are going to do that because, he is a highly touted, free agent. The good news for the Braves is there's a lot of highly touted free agents in the shortstop position. Carlos Correa is more than likely going to opt out of his contract. Trey Turner is a free agent. So there's a lot of other guys that are frankly have more name value right now than Dansby Swanson that are also out there. A lot of you guys in the chat tonight, thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you. Let's see. Bruce Taylor says you can never have too much pitching. They will get another starter for sure. You have to get deeper. Yeah, I agree. And a lot of you guys have brought up a lot of names to me. Carlos Rodon has come up a few times. And there's always going to be guys that you guys bring to me, and I get all that. It always takes me like, look, I don't know. I don't know everything. I try to give you an educated, response. I like the Rodon idea. I think the Giants are where they are, and they're probably ready to move on and kind of rebuild to some degree. With Rodon specifically, he might have moved on from the Giants, but I like Rodon as a pitcher. That's kind of where I'm at with Rodon. I like him as a pitcher. I think he would fit the Braves. I think he'd be a different style that can also be successful. And I think obviously the numbers show it. I don't think he would be that expensive. I think he would be a perfect pick for the Braves. But we'll see. That's kind of where we're at with that. The starting pitching has definitely got to improve. No, he's still with the Giants. Okay, yeah, 2.88 ERA, 14-8 on the year. The numbers are there, and the Giants weren't that great this year. He was an all-star, though, and he was obviously a shining light. If they're ready to move on and he's ready to move on, then I think Atlanta could very well be a fit. But that's just one. We'll see. Malik Brooks says Georgia native. Support Georgia natives. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I'm a Georgia native, just probably south of most of you. Hi, Lonesome Colorado Bluegrass Band. Go Braves from Sandy Springs, Georgia. Thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Hope you'll subscribe. Remember, guys, if you haven't already, just want to remind you, I know most of you guys have liked the video, but please also add me on Twitter and Instagram. The tags are right there. Links are down below as well. But yeah, we would love to we'd love to have you there as well. Follow the channel a little bit more closely and see kind of what we're up to behind the scenes as well. Again, the tags for Twitter and Instagram on the screen right now, and of course the links are in the bio. A lot of you guys are talking about potentially going out and getting Zach Wheeler. Yeah, we saw him today. That would be great. But, we'll have to see. We will have to see in the offseason. Guys, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, we're probably going to wrap it up here in just a minute. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really do appreciate all of your support and all of your interaction tonight. I got to wrap it up. I have work early in the morning, so I apologize for that. If you want to get a last-minute super chat in, do it. But other than that, we're probably going to wrap it up. Thank you again for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much. Obviously, a very big night for the Braves tonight. 3-0 win over the Philadelphia Phillies. Love that. And, as we move on in this series to Game 3 on Friday, I think the Braves are carrying momentum. I think that, whoever they get to pitch, whether it be Morton or Strider, I'm leaning Morton as of right now. We will see. But there's a lot to look forward to in this series, and hopefully the Braves can take what they had in this series and move on to the NLCS and, of course, eventually move on to the World Series as well. Only time will tell, but we will see. So thank you again for tuning in. We're going to wrap it up there. Remember, guys, we have a lot of postseason coverage. So, look, if you're out there and you like what we have here, your friends will probably like it too. So like this video if you haven't, and, of course, subscribe, but also share this with your friends. It really does help the channel out. Share it on Facebook. Send it to them in a text message. They might like this stream just as much as you. So please help support the channel. We really do appreciate it. All of your support does matter, and it all does go to the same place, and it does count. So thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next time right here at On Deck. Go Bravos!